Okay. The two biggest concerns when starting a painting is planning your washes and managing edges. Okay? So I have to decide when I want edges to bleed together, when I want to have lost edges, when I want to have what kind of edges I want to have, right? So if I plan my washes out and if I manage my edges, I'm going to have a pretty successful painting, right? So, and especially if you combine that with what we learned in our last class, which was defining where it's going to be my darks, where it's going to be my midtones, what's going to be my lights, you have answered all the questions of what you need to put together to make a successful painting. All right. So before I let this completely dry, let me come back in here and it up a little bit. And we're gonna have some fun with this. Now,
you've already chosen your greens. That's right.
Yeah, I already pulled my greens out. My greens are my primaries here, but guys, I'm gonna pull some other colors into this as we go. I don't mind. So I'm looking, now, I want you to experiment. I do not want you to just do what I do. Paint with a different color, decide something different. I'm replicating a painting I've already painted, right? So I'm going to start with my lighter greens. I'm going to put them in. And notice I'm not being careful. This is my warmer greens. This is where I'm going to want my highlights. And watch. Okay, now I got some of that going. Now I'm going to put in some of my darks. Where's my painting?
Right here.
Okay. So when I painted this, I did not actually use jadeite green. I used olive green to do most of this. So I am deviating already from what I did the first time.
Okay.
You use that instead of the green gold?
Yep. No, the green gold I did use on the first painting.
Okay, and then olive green is something different. Would you use that instead of?
The jadeite.
Jadeite.
Yeah, I'm using this
time
jadeite.
is.
But guys, watch this.
Anna, you have all of those because you bought them from me.
I just pulled in some
It's teal.
ultramarine blue.
Did you pull that into the body of the bird? I can't see. No.
No.
Just underneath.
And I'm just throwing this in there. Now, I don't like this pigment here. I want it to diffuse out a little bit more. Now, what I'm wanting here is I want a dark background and I want my crow or my raven to stand out from the background. So it almost doesn't matter what color I'm throwing in here. As long as it's dark and as long as it makes the raven stand out. Ooh, I just bought this color. Let's try it. This is a red Fuchsia Genuine. I just bought it.
Red machete?
No, Fuchsia.
Is it a red?
It is a red. Fuchsia. I don't know.
It's Italian.
Fuchsite? Here, hand it to her.
Fuchsia. Is it fuchsia? She didn't even try.
Yeah, it's red fuchsia. I've
I've
never heard of that.
that.
It must be a mixture with some pink in it.
Oh my goodness.
Let me see what the color is.
Fuchsia, yeah.
I just want to see what it looks like. Kind of like a,
Well, where's that Daniel Smith?
It is one of the
Primitex.
Primatex. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Primatech?
Now look at this, guys. I'm going in and I'm putting in even more because
they make it.
I want
No,
that jungle
that's
kind of look.
Make the Primitex.
What's the name of it? Red
Red
fuchsia.
fuchsia.
Genuine.
And what is it about Primatex? It's
They're made-
granulated?
They're made from minerals.
Oh,
Made
okay.
from.
And they're the ones that are so expensive.
Yeah, they are a bit pricey. Don't tell my wife I bought this.
She'll be like,
Find it.
where are my jewels? They're in my pinks.
And you have, or you will be sending us this picture?
Yeah, I have sent it to you already.
Yeah,
Okay.
she got it last
All
night.
All right, so now I'm going in with some of my green, and I'm picking. This is less pigment, more water, and look what I'm doing.
Making just light.
Ladders.
Are you just changing the value of the backgrounds?
I'm layering.
Laying with some splatters for some interest.
But you're layering a very light value there.
Very light value. Very light value.
What's the point of the circle behind things that a lot of people use?
Yeah, it's a vignette.
Well, this is not a vignette. This is a.
Oh.
The circle is actually going to be the moon.
Oh, okay. That was-
In this case.
It was that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, look at the moon.
I don't know. It looks like a circle.
Wow. You didn't mask it, you're just painting around it.
Your color's great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you know, actually, it was saying.
I did not
Should
realize that.
When I did it, I thought, oh, I don't know if it's gonna come out, but it came out nice.
I've just got a black and white printer because color ink is so expensive and it's just like,
I have a laser color printer, but it's so old now that it's just not working right.
And I'm just throwing some different colors in there, guys. I
It
don't.
was $600.
I'm not trying to be.
Yeah.
2006.
the
It's
color,
okay.
the colored stuff is like $75 to put in it. It doesn't last hardly at all.
Well, that's why I use laser printer.
Yeah.
not a-
It lasts me
not
one
any
class.
typos.
Yeah, I'm
One
sure.
class.
I'm sure.
What was that?
My color
The
printer.
refills, the color
Oh.
refills.
I mean, one 6-week class, I can't hardly get through with one cartridge.
I'm surprised you get that much.
With the XL, that's what the XL stuff for. I'm supposed to get 300 copies, there's no way.
Oh, you are?
Okay, that's me too, and I always give people
Yeah.
copies of
I
it.
don't get 300.
What size of printer is
It's a Canon.
I just
Yeah.
got one that's a black and white.
The last time I did color something for you guys, I just took it to quick one of those.
You could have used yes.
Yeah, I went to
Yeah,
U.
really
I think
good.
they could.
Usually do.
It wasn't too expensive. It wasn't too bad. I'm gonna make some copies of things for you guys for this class too. Now, I'm almost done, and then I kind of need this to dry, because this is just the first layer, guys.
And it always dries so light, or much lighter.
Yep. But I wanted to get some reds in there, some blues in there, just to show you, it doesn't have to be green.
But you're still aware of the value even as you're putting the first layer in?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
So you're not gonna go in and paint that, you're just gonna keep dabbing it or.
no, I'm gonna
splashing
do
it.
some painting on it.
You are? I
It's
mean,
not there yet. In fact, the next step is I'm gonna paint in and this goes into, I want some bleeding here. I do not want, so now I'm gonna do the branch. I do not want a perfect branch that has no broken edges. What are we trying to achieve here? We're trying to achieve, where's my list?
The artistic freedom. You want me to just put that up? Do we have
If
it?
we had it somewhere.
Broken
Trying to-
edges?
Edges and. yeah.
Managing edges.
Washes and bit.
Okay, we're trying to do losing edges, we're trying to have defining edges, and we're trying to have, so, I want to do this branch. I'm going with some burnt sienna, and I'm going with some burnt sienna and burnt umber,
That's such a good person.
and I'm pulling in a little bit of I think that's, it's Payne's Gray. And then I'm even gonna throw in a little bit of, so if you add, I taught you guys if you add burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, you get a really nice dark. All right, so now I'm going to do the branch, and it's gonna bleed, and that's okay.
You're doing it, did you wet it before you did it?
I not waited for this page to dry,
Okay.
so it's still wet from the original time that I
Painted it.
painted it.
And you painted it over the.
Yeah. And I'm okay with this. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I want it to not be perfect.
Wow. You gotta make sure you don't get too much or you'll have drips flying down.
And I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll make it kind of spooky, you know, if it's.
Yeah.
And you didn't leave any lights for the light areas.
What light areas?
Oh, here, here.
Well, we'll see.
I guess you can let it dry and paint over it.
Yeah, so this is not going to be the final, because this, when it dries, it's going to dry lighter.
Yeah.
No, it's too floppy. I have to have all this stuff. That's why I prefer this one.
So I'm going to get some branches in there. I'm going to have a little bit of,
Looks like a snake.
No, not
He
this
did
one.
get his lines when he got to the end.
This is just.
So did the bottom of the branch, is that your losing edges?
yes. Anywhere you fade off and you can't see, what am I doing? I'm creating a scene where the brain has to interpret what it's seeing. If I spell everything out, what do you want? Do you want a mystery where I tell you the answer at the beginning of the book?
No.
No, you want a mystery that builds and builds, and where does that go? What does it look like? What's there? Why is this? Same with a painting. I don't want everything completely spelled out for me. The more I spell out and the more detailed I make things, the less interesting it is. All right. So now I need some.
You okay?
Let's go in here and do a little bit of.
Talking about the four corners, it's very interesting to have three. I've always thought that, like to.
I very
and have
rarely.
an opening to come
Yeah.
out.
Very rarely try to have four corners.
Yeah.
For, you
Yeah,
know, I'm not.
I'm not.
Now there is a
I like that opening.
there is a composition technique that is all about having the four corners, you know, have something in them, and that comes from a keyhole. It's called a keyhole composition or a tunnel composition. I set that up in some of my paintings, like the one that you saw at the 5-Star Lakes with the branches and the really dark. And so if you look, every corner
It's
is
full.
dark.
And because you want to tell them where
Gives
to
you,
look.
pulls you in. She could do that with her painting with the vineyard with the
Oh, yeah.
So once you put once you put the darks in there
With the path.
then you're creating a keyhole composition.
Is that a Japanese technique?
Hmm?
Is that Japanese technique? Do you
Mm.
like that?
No,
It's just
Keyhole,
one of
just
them.
just one of the composition methods.
Yeah.
So we talked about compositions during the last class, and so here are the various compositions, right?
Okay, yeah,
Now these aren't all the compositions.
right.
These are the, you know, I would say the most common compositions. But in this case you have, you know, S, T, and examples. What you have is a keyhole composition. There's no keyhole composition here, but anytime you have, you know, a dark on the outsides with a light center, you're drawing into it. It's called a keyhole composition.
Is that also called a vignette?
No, a vignette is when you paint something in the middle of a piece of paper and you bleed it out to white all around the edge. So it's just, it's floating in
It's
space.
floating, yeah.
That is a vignette.
I just like that one area of freedom.
No, I like it too.
Yeah.
I like that too, yeah.
All right, so one thing I'm not doing here is I'm not completely cleaning off my palette.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I do that, so I'm gonna pull over some Jane's Gray and for my first light wash on my Raven, and I am going in even in the puddle that I already have there. So I'm still picking up some of the greens, some of the burnt sienna, some of the other darks that I'm using,
That's what I'm going in now.
and it's going to be reflected in the Raven to some degree, which will help tie it all together, right? So now I'm going to come in and I'm
No,
going
you're
to
doing
do,
that dry, sorry.
this is dry.
Yeah.
I'm going to come in and do my lightest wash for my Raven. So this is not going to be dark. This is going to be a light wash. I'll do my darks afterwards. So
Just have to see what he's doing.
So what I'm trying to do here is just get my lightest lights. And I honestly don't have to get all of this because I'm gonna go over the top of it with darks. So this doesn't have to be perfect. I just want my lightest lights on this run. So if I'm trying to preserve the white of a paper anywhere, this is the time to do it.
Okay.
And what method am I using if I'm preserving the white of something? I didn't mask anything off, so what am I doing?
You're just leaving it, leaving the whites.
I'm preserving whites by using negative painting.
Ah.
Oh, okay, you're gonna.
Negative painting, that's the
Okay.
skill set I'm showing. If I paint around something,
Okay.
right? Like I painted around the moon. That was intentional, that is negative painting. I painted around my crow, that was intentional, that was negative painting.
So Terry, you're saying all 7 of those techniques need to show up in this painting?
No,
Oh.
I'm
okay.
saying,
have to know how to
I'm
do
saying if you've mastered those 7 techniques, then you have the skill sets needed to be
Okay.
successful painting anything you want to paint.
All right.
I'm trying to show you where those particular skill sets are showing up in this painting.
In this painting, got it.
So glazing is just putting color over color.
Yep. Glazing is layering.
Trying to.
Good.
This gets a little.
You're putting the lightest one in because you'll be going over it and doing it
Yep.
over and over
Mhm.
and over and over.
I actually am not going to have to do a lot of glazing on this. This whole crow will be done in about 2 layers.
Really?
Yeah, but notice now that I'm getting some bleeding.
Yeah.
Do I care? No, I want it to bleed a little bit. Let's bleed in.
Oh, wow.
Let's have some bleeding.
Purposeful.
Purposeful, I decided.
I don't know if I can do that.
What's that?
One thing I want you to do when you paint
I think
this.
it makes it look more natural when you do have that.
One thing I want you to do when you paint this. How am I holding my brush?
On the end, very bottom.
Yeah.
Most of you are going to paint like this.
No.
No, we're not.
None of us do that.
Paint like this.
We're gonna
Paint
be good.
this.
We're gonna be good.
Like this.
I said you get that feathery, soft,
Yeah.
right?
Well, so what's going to happen here, guys, is you are all very tied to. I got to be
Tight. We're
perfect. I got to be perfect. Is this painting the kind of painting I want to be super tight and perfect on?
But when you start putting in the feather detail, you're going
I'm
to
gonna
shorten up.
choke up.
You're going to choke up. Exactly.
Choke up on
That's
the
what I'm
bat.
waiting for. Huh?
I'm going to choke up on the bat.
That's right.
My hands start to cramp.
So, how many of you paint your paintings? Like I've seen different people attack paintings different ways. I'm doing this in layers. How many of you would have started the crow and painted the crow till finish?
Oh, no. I've always done it in layers, because that way you can
Well, 'cause
add some
that's,
color
if you mess
everywhere.
that up, it's not worth anything. It's not worth finishing it.
Also, your touches did an next,
Yeah.
and if you look, have you ever looked at your painting and you're like, oh my God, what is this? There's 3 different people doing this. Because each day it's different. So,
So why are you
That's why I hate
saying
to
not
stop
to do
and put a
that,
painting
Terry?
down.
Because
It's so hard for me to get back to a
if
painting.
you mess
once I
up the
start, I've lost
raven, then the rest of
You
it's
know,
not.
it's like,
So
I'll sit
you
there
are gonna
for
get
hours.
Yeah.
your best results not by trying, especially with watercolor.
Yeah.
If you could get away with that, like there are some people who paint like that. There are definitely people who paint like that, even in watercolor. I would say it's the hardest way to paint in watercolor. I'm not saying you can't be successful because there are people who painted beautiful, gorgeous paintings doing that. But that is a method that is more suited to painting with oil or painting with
That's why I
paint. And most of us have an oil painting background or
Yeah.
an acrylic painting background, and that's why most of us get, we choke up on we get little teeny tiny brushes out, we make little teeny tiny strokes. That's oil.
well, you're also looking at the overall value of the painting when you do the whole thing rather than just one.
Okay, so now I've still got,
One's fine. I mean,
and you know what I want here now is I want,
dry. Yeah.
I'm still just doing some water splots
Glued together for me, when I
just to get a little bit of texture.
The other thing is I always start it right to left. 'Cause
I love texture and I love splatter.
And see, I'm even doing it over the top of the crow. And I'm doing it, see how it's showing up on the stick? How often do you see a stick or a branch in real life where it looks perfect?
Never.
Never.
Never. Well, that might be some light.
They like,
So,
they
but
shine.
I don't.
Okay, so now, go ahead.
Do you ever use a technique where you kind of just, well, I guess the first thing you did, but you just kind of dab the paint into the paper?
Yeah, you're gonna see me do some of that here.
Oh, no, what do you-
I'm just looking over your shoulder, don't mind me. I just want to see, oh, okay, so you're, okay.
You're just trying to make sure your paper's wet before you work on it?
I'm gonna do the blue of the moon.
Ah.
I'm gonna do a little bit, and notice the moon's got a little bit of green in it. It's got a little bit of other colors in it. I'm just pulling the colors together from the rest of the painting that I've already used to the moon to give myself some. Now, I could do this a lot of different ways, but I'm just randomly throwing some. And guess what? Do I care if it bleeds together?
No,
I would
doesn't
be
care.
so nervous.
No, the raven's gonna be black. So
I
it
would
will be
like
great.
really, I would be micromanaging that.
Sue, what did you say? Because share that with the class.
About the blue?
Yeah.
No, it's great if that blue drips in because the raven's gonna be black, so
Ah.
blue dripping in will just make it more interesting.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I guess if it's a darker value, it doesn't really.
No,
It's not
uh-uh.
important.
You have to learn the layer.
Yeah.
And as it stands now, right, my crow is going to be darker than the moon. So I don't care that it's coming out, in this case, that way. It doesn't bother me at all.
Sue, be sure to show him your rainbow, swamp, so, and show him the stages and all the layering.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You're an overachiever.
We were talking in class about how paintings go through the ugly adolescent stage.
Yeah, I say that all the time.
Yeah. But I think some people don't anticipate it, and then they look and they're like, "Oh my God, this painting sucks."
Yeah, and
When
they give up
it's just
way
in
too
a
early.
funky stage.
Yeah, they'll give up way too early. I mean, every painting has ugly teenage years.
Yep. Yep.
And sometimes paintings will stay in the ugly teenage years right up till like they're 27 years old. But trust me, there is an adult in there somewhere. Now, I got this a little darker than I want it, so I'm gonna do something, watch this. I'm gonna take my paper towel and I'm gonna go give it some texture. So I don't care, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's better if it's not perfect.
What are you putting in there now?
I'm just throwing in some darker blue. This is, And I'm probably gonna lift most of this out. I just wanna give it a different blue to kinda, cause this.
Is that a phthalo blue you were using?
No.
That doesn't seem hard to lift. Thinking.
No, it's one of those,
Yeah, it was more like cobalt or something.
Well,
yeah.
It's a little green.
I was just wondering if you think of that when you're going to lift something.
Oh yeah, I do. But in this case, I want it to be somewhat staining and somewhat, I want it to be
Okay.
a little less than, I don't want it to be perfect.
And you want it to be like a realistic moon.
I'm not trying to make it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
I'm
what
not-
we're fighting inside of our brains.
yeah, we're all fighting that demon that says, make it look like the moon.
Yeah.
We paint a lot of things the way we know they look or the way that we think they look.
Yeah.
We pick up a color and we start painting something because we believe that that's the color of that thing. Rather than really truly evaluating, well, what color is gonna be? I'm gonna do a little thing with you guys where I'm gonna show you where you could take the same color next to other colors and make it look one way. Take the same exact color, put it next to other colors, and make it look so different. I'm gonna show you that during our next class. All right, so now we need this to dry. The brush that has a good tip on it,
Okay.
and now I'm going in and I'm using the same James Gray. Use any dark color you want.
You're saying James?
James Gray.
James Gray, okay.
James Gray, like I told you, is a little darker than Payne's Gray. It's a little less blue. It's a little more black than Payne's Gray. But you can use Payne's Gray. You can use neutral tint. All will work great. All right. So I'm going now. Y'all, how many of you remember the when I say consistency of your water to pigment? If I say tea, if I say milk,
Coffee.
coffee,
Cream.
this is between coffee and cream.
Okay.
What I'm doing now. I want it to have some flowability, right? And notice, I haven't cleaned off my palette.
Yeah.
I'm still using the same exact palette I was using before. I usually charge up my brush pretty good, and then I dab it.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna
Uh-oh, did you put
What are you talking about?
on your brush?
But now I'm doing details.
Okay.
be, yeah, he's in detail.
Now I'm doing
It's
details.
detail mode.
But I caught him.
Yeah, I mean, that helps us understand.
The brush police got me.
That is almost black.
Yeah, always dries lighter. That's the,
Well, this doesn't dry all that much lighter.
No?
no, that, okay, well.
You're not going to get a huge color shift in, because I am using a lot of pigment. And
That's the challenge is how much paint, how much water.
if you're afraid, you can always thin it out a little bit, go to like milk tea consistency.
Yeah.
Notice I started off really dark along the edge, and as I go to the middle, I'm lightening it up. Right?
Okay.
So you would consider that defining?
Like a gradation from the cream.
And
What'd you say?
yeah, you got it. This is definitely defining the edge. So that is the goal here, right? I'm defining, and I want this edge of this. This is my focal point of my painting. The head of this raven up against that moon.
Ooh, yeah.
So this should be the area of greatest detail and greatest contrast.
So, all right, define the edge. Greatest detail.
So I miss
That's
anything,
gonna be
Sue?
the sharpest.
Did I miss anything, Sue?
She's busy talking.
I'm not paying attention. Something more interesting going on.
He's talking about you.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
I kept talking about you.
I said, did I miss anything, Sue?
No, we were just talking about how to change the colors with the, using
On
your
the
phone,
phone, so that you can go to black and white.
Mhm.
or change up the colors a little bit.
We could cover that in another.
But they, you know what, Terry, they were asking whether there's an app where you can totally change another color. In your phone, you can kind of go from blues to
You
purple.
can push it around. You can push cools, warms.
Yeah, that's what I was just showing.
Well, you really, but be better to push it, cause then you'll understand it.
So guys,
Full form.
again, I told y'all that I do most paintings in about 3 layers.
Right.
So in this case, I did my first layer. This is my second layer. I will come back with a final layer. My final layer, and they progressively get smaller, right? So the first layer is the biggest. It's going to be the biggest. The second layer will be mid-tones. My final layer will be my darks, my darkest darks. All right.
That you don't consider what you're doing right now to be the darkest dark?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, look at the picture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I was gonna show her, look at the picture. That's just this color.
But that seems to be one of the darker
Yeah,
colors.
when I squint, I see that as
It's not as
dark.
dark as, it's not anywhere near as dark as the, tree leaves, tree limbs, sorry.
I've done my brush.
Or the
Okay.
beak, or the beak. The
Done
darkest
that
color. Yeah.
Okay, so feathers, right? In this case,
Yeah.
I'm backing off a little bit on my, and all I'm doing is kind of an outline of feathers.
Really?
So you're gonna make a little,
I'm not just gonna go boom, 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 boom.
Nope.
Okay, I'm just looking over your shoulder, don't mind
Well,
me.
you can still see the
Oh, okay,
pencil
you're
marks
just
under there, I think.
Yep.
They already
And you're
decided.
using that Princeton with the point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm not trying to be
And
perfect.
you're still doing that with the, what you consider the mid-tone?
Mm-hmm. Not trying to be perfect.
My Raven is not gonna have that many feathers.
I'm sorry.
And in fact,
That was cute.
doesn't have to. Now, when I get down into doing some of these, like, I do have to be careful because there is a lot of gradation working in here. And if you look, I've got some blues working in there too.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna start, if I get in here, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue.
You're still in the mid-tone.
I'm still in the midtones. Now, I got a little darker than I wanted to get. So I picked it up.
Well,
So
you
you
did
added
it that way because it's light. It comes white in that.
Well, you're gonna have to leave highlights again,
Yeah,
right?
I
Like,
think that's what you
leave
did.
the white, what'd you call it?
I'm gonna try to sell these.
Saving your
She wants to sell it.
Preserving highlights.
preserving your highlights.
Preserving highlights. But notice, like, I can go in and I can do these, and then I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, get some staining going on, and then I'm gonna pick it up,
Okay,
right?
yeah. I usually end up having to pick up, because I'm just not that perfect.
We are running out of time.
So there's no other way to get those edges except paint.
You guys paint everything.
But it didn't take me long. Look how long I spent on this. I didn't even spend 3 minutes.
I know, you haven't really.
I'll figure out something.
So there you go, right? Picking it up a little bit, but you can tell I'm hitting it pretty close. All right, now I'm gonna go for this jadeite green, which is not the green I used initially. I used like an olive green. And again, this is where I come in here and I start doing a little pattern, and it is as random as I can make it.
Or as we call it, squiggles.
Squiggles, whatever you want to call it.
So you're just using that one olive green right now,
I'm using jadeite green.
jadeite green.
But you could use olive green, you could
Oh, that's
use,
not black.
Yeah.
Or,
no, it's a great.
It's all midtown green.
But if you want, here's another thing you can do. You can now switch between that and a blue or a red.
yeah.
So that could be where you start adding some other colors.
Yeah.
Your artistic.
And what I'm looking for here is consistency of values.
Yeah. In the midtones still.
I'm in the darks.
I thought so. Consistency of values.
But look how, like the branch, does it need hard edges?
I
No,
like it fuzzy.
No.
looks spookier without them.
What does
And watch this. As I go through here and I'm doing this little thing. Then I'm gonna I've let it set there for a few minutes.
he did that on dry?
It's on dry. Now I come in here and I can go, all right, let me pick some of it up here.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
added some texture.
so you're picking
Oh,
it
I
up to
thought
add the
you had
texture.
yellow in there and you don't.
And I can go over the top of it.
spritz it.
I
And I can
know.
go over the top of it with a different color.
But you want that to have some kind of structure. You don't want it to fade into the background.
See, now I've picked up some yellow. As I'm getting closer to the edge, I want to lighten it up.
You want values in it.
Right? So you started putting the feathers in them. Or were you gonna put any more wash over the body?
No?
You're gonna leave the body that light?
Yep. Look how light it is over there.
Yeah, you're right.
I might put a little bit
Little
of
color
blue.
blue in there on some of the feathers.
You're still in leaves, right?
Yep.
I can see it.
Now I'm going in and I'm connecting some of these, and after I let it dry a bit,
I'll try to.
now I'm doing a wash over the top of it, and look at what's happening.
Melding into your print.
Yeah. So what I did was I defined the edges,
Right.
but I also defined the groups of leaves together. So now it's looking more and more like a real tree, and with more real, right? Then,
So you added more water in as you got to the end, to the paint.
yeah, I let it bleed together. So that's the process. Now I could wait for that to dry, and I could go back over the top of it with even darker. And what I'm, now obviously it's
Squiggles.
yeah, do more squiggles. It's not going to do what I want it to now, but you get the idea.
And then those you'd leave.
Yeah. I like this contrast. Look at the contrast I'm getting from the background.
Yeah.
I want that. That's good. Just leave that there. Don't have to change anything.
Just have to come around the corner to see it.
Okay. So you could not use a dagger for the leaves?
You could use
For-
anything you
I
want.
mean, for the feather.
Dagger would
Whoa,
work.
it's-
Uh-oh. That's bad. Yeah, we got to start cleaning up. But yeah, you could use a dagger if you wanted. I would prefer, you talking about on the feathers, you're not going to have nearly as much control. It's going to come out like mush. So you really need those feathers to look like feathers.
Yeah.
And if you back off of them too much and you don't have over their shape, it will not come out looking like raven feathers.
Yeah.
You really want the feathers to look that way.